One of the things I really enjoy when cooking outdoors over a campfire is baking things in a Dutch oven. That involves putting coals up on top of the Dutch oven so you get heat down from the top, as well as some coals on the bottom to heat from the bottom. The problem with that is that you have to take the lid off to check and see if your biscuits or your pie or your cinnamon rolls or whatever you're baking in the Dutch oven is done and ready to serve. When you do that, it's really easy to dump ashes into the Dutch oven. So for that, you need some sort of a lid lifter. And a lid lifter just supports the lid so that it doesn't want to tip and rock. And that way you can get the lid off the Dutch oven without dumping what's on top of the lid into your food. So today, let's make a lid lifter. I don't know if it'll look exactly like this one, but we'll use this as kind of an inspiration for our lid lifter. One of the key aspects that makes this work is the fact that it has 3 points of contact. It has a hook that goes into the ring on the lid and these 2 little stabilizing legs so that it doesn't want to tip side to side and doesn't want to tip back and forward. I'm going to punch a hole in here. So before I do that, I'm going to upset that just a little bit, give me a little bit more room to punch that hole, so this leverage point does not become a weak spot. So I just want to straighten this out a little bit. We'll do a whole lot more to it before we're done. Then I want to draw out the part that's going to be my hook. I want to punch a hole in this. I'm going to use the smallest punch that I've got right in the fattest part of the upset. I'm just a little off center, and that way my hole will end up pushing over to the side a little bit. At least that is my intent. And this will need to be drifted and enlarged. I just want to start with a nice snug little hole there. I want to remove as little material as possible as well. Which is one reason for punching instead of drilling. So there's a nice hole. I keep moving it around the Pritchell hole so I don't end up with a funny offset. Be careful as this gets cold. That wall does get thin and you could crack that. But that should be big enough for this drift now. So now it should be a simple matter of drifting this whole 3/8. I just want to make sure that it's kind of flush on one side just because I like that look. Not absolutely critical. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and bend the hook into this. I want to make sure that the hole is cooled off before I bend this. I don't want to deform the hole. And I'm just going to go around this little jig here. And just make a nice little hook. Now that requires me to really get over the top of the Dutch oven, and that may not be what I want to do in use. So I think I'm going to back bend this a little bit down and maybe straighten the hook out just a little bit. Just a bending fork is a good way to do that. Let's see if that's any better. Do some experimentation. Even when you think you're done, the first time you use it, you may decide you want something a little different. That works pretty well. As long as I don't have to come in with the bar way over here, I'm pretty happy, and I don't want it to fall off when I'm lifting it. So that's pretty good right there. Next thing, I think I'm going to put decorative twist in the middle. The twist is purely ornamental and completely up to what you feel like you want to do. You can see that that's twisting at an odd rate right through here, so I'm going to heat that up a little bit since the torch is already set up and ready to go. And that's all I'm going to do to that. I'm just going to draw this out and put a little curl on the end like I do on so many things. Because these can have a fair amount of leverage with a heavy Dutch oven lid, I like to do a kind of a flat handle like this that is easier to grab than some kind of a ring handle that forces you to hold it just by the 3/8 bar. This allows you to control the leverage better. So to do this, I'm just going to bend that around. Now in use, a handle that's straight means that there's a lot of leverage out here, and you really have to strain a little bit, and that puts some stress on your forearm. And if you were cooking in a really big Dutch oven, that might be inconvenient. Setting these up so that they are more vertical, so your lift is more vertical, is a little bit less strain. So with that in mind, the next thing I want to do is kind of put this little double dog leg in. We'll bend this up right back here, and on the other side of the twist we'll bend it down. There may even be some usefulness for making it almost vertical, and that's just something you need to experiment with for your own use and your own comfort. And again, since the torch is out, I'm just going to heat this where I want it with the torch. This makes for excellent controlled bends. And I just want to bend this up. So that'll work there. But now the handle's in an odd position, so I want to bend the handle the other way. So let's try that. So that means you can bring this in like this, and as long as the legs are long enough, that's a pretty comfortable lift. I think I'm going to leave it just like that. So now we need to put the leg in. And for the leg, I've cut a little piece of 3/8 round bar. This is 5.5 inches long, or about 130 millimeters. And that's just going to insert in here. And luckily this is tight enough, it's going to be a drive-in fit, and that means when it cools and shrinks, it's going to hold this fairly solid. And we'll put it in straight and then decide if I'm going to weld it or pin it or what I'm going to do with it to make sure that it doesn't ever move. This is also your chance to straighten things out if they're a little bit crooked. And that fits right in there. I'm going to visually center it up. Now I'm going to let this cool and shrink on there, and we'll see how tight it is and whether I need to do something else to keep that pin in. That wasn't quite as tight as I would have liked, so I went ahead and put a little bit of weld on there. So for this, I'm just going to kind of work over the horn to start with. It's another place I probably should have just used the torch. Keep me from bending everything else up. Try to make both legs match. And then test it in the lid from time to time to make sure it's going to work with the lid. That's not bad. I think I can bend them down just a little bit more. That works pretty good. Now the truth is, this is going to fit a little bit different depending on the Dutch oven you're using it with. Every Dutch oven is going to be a little different. So you kind of have to make it fit the range of Dutch ovens you have. I do hope you found that interesting, and I do hope you can get out to your shop today and make something. But do stay safe, wear your safety glasses. We'll see you for the next one.